Bashu. Welcome to my channel. Now today we'll be taking indices under mathematics. Now, indices simply put means anything that has a power. Let's say for example you have this x raised to power 8. Now this is called an index. Now when you have multiple of it, it becomes indices. Now this is an index. Everything is called index. Everything is called index. Now this x, because it's the one carrying this one, is called the base. The x is the one carrying that number, is called the base. Now the number that is being carried is called the power. Now nobody will tell you to define what an index is, but I just feel it is important to know what an index is. Now this is the introduction part of this class. This first video we focus on the laws of indices, as the rules that are guiding indices. Now in no particular order, if you have two index multiplying each other, the first rule, the rules of indices. Rules of indices. That's what this first video is going to focus on. Introduction part of the video we focus on the rules of indices. Now in no particular order, the first rule is saying if we have two index multiplying each other, we have two index multiplying each other, and you notice that the base are the same. The rule says take one of the base, then you add the powers together. You take one of the base, then you add the powers together. Let's say for example you have 2 raised to power 4 times 2 raised to power 3. Now 2 raised to power 4 means multiply 2 by itself 4 times. 2 raised to power 3 means multiply 2 by itself 3 times. So if we do that, 2 raised to power 4, that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 raised to power 3, multiply 2 by itself 3 times. So we have 2 times 2 times 2. Now all together, how many times is 2 multiplying itself? 2 is multiplying itself how many times? 7 times. So that means this is what? 2 raised to power 7. Now following this rule, what this rule is basically telling us is that if you have two index multiplying each other like this, you have two index multiplying each other like this, the rule says instead of going through this hard work, just take one of the base, then add the powers together. If you take one of the base and you add the powers together, we get 2 raised to power 7. The answer is the same as this. So if you have two index multiplying each other and you notice that the base are the same, just add the powers together. That's what the rule is saying. Now the second rule is saying if you have two index dividing each other like this, you have two index dividing each other like this, this rule says take one of the base. Thank God we know what base is, the base of an index. Take one of the base, then subtract the power. Now let's see how this rule will work. Now let's say we have 2 raised to power 5 divided by 2 raised to power 3. 2 raised to power 5 divided by 2 raised to power 3. Now if you want to write this, we can write this like this: 2 raised to power 5 divided by 2 raised to power 3. And you know 2 raised to power 5 means multiply 2 by itself 5 times, have it? So 2 raised to power 5, that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All over. 2 raised to power 3 means multiply 2 by itself 3 times. So we have 2 times 2 times 2. Now if this cancels this, this cancels this, this cancels this, we have 2 times 2. That means 2 is multiplying itself 2 times. So that means the final answer to this is 2 raised to power 2. Now if we follow what this rule is saying, that if you have two index dividing each other and you notice that the base are the same, the rule says take one of the base, then subtract the powers. Take one of the base, then subtract the powers. So we have 5 minus 3, that's 2, and that's still 2 raised to power 2. So that's rule 2 for you. Then rule 3, in no particular order. There's no particular order to this. The most important thing is to know the rules. Now this third rule is saying x raised to power 0 is 1, not just x. Anything raised to power 0 is 1. Even a madman raised to power 0 is 1. Even police raised to power 0 is 1. Are you following? So anything raised to power 0 is 1. Anything at all is 1. Now rule 4, that's the negative power rule. If we have negative power like this, x raised to power minus m, the power is now negative. What the rule says we should do here is that this negative becomes 1 over, then we have x raised to power m. That is rule 4. Then the fifth rule, in no particular order. If we have a fractional power, let's say we have x raised to power m over n. The m over n is a power, but it's fraction. So what we'll do is that the denominator of this power becomes a root, n root, x raised to power m. We'll see problems shortly. I will see how to apply these rules. I don't really have an explanation for this. Now, if you have this, if x raised to power m is equals to x raised to power n, you have two index that are equals to each other. You have two index that are equals to each other, and you notice that the base are the same. If the base are the same, for them to be equal, then definitely the powers have to be the same. That's rule 6. Then rule 7. Rule 7 is similar to rule 6, but this time around the powers are the same. So if x raised to power m is equals to y raised to power m, I believe you guys will guess this right. Now two index are equals to each other, but this time around the powers are the same. So since the powers are the same, then that means the base will be the same. Then rule 8. If you have something like this, x over y raised to power m, x over y raised to power m, you can see a fraction with a single power. You have a fraction that is carrying a single power. What the rule is saying is that you can divide them. You can say this is x raised to power m over y raised to power m. Then another rule that we can get from here, very similar to this, if you have x times y, okay, let me not use x, let me say a times b, everything raised to power m. You have two numbers multiplying each other, but they have the same power. Now what that rule is saying we should do is that we split. This is a raised to power m times b raised to power m. Now there's a 10th rule, the last rule that we are going to take now. Okay, now let's say we have something like this. We have x m and there's a power. Now you have an index carrying a power. You have an index carrying a power. What that rule says we should do is you just multiply the powers. And these are the rules of indices. Now in this section, I expect you guys to master the rules of indices. Hopefully write them somewhere, and in the next video we are going to take simple questions.